Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's topic is Modernize Business Intelligence in 2023 and start the process of removing Query 400 and replacing it with a more modern solution to help elevate the pain for IT and business users on accessing and analyzing your business data. My name is Greg Schmidt. I'll be the presenter for today's webinar. We all know your business data is rich with information that can improve your organization's efficiency and overall performance. But if it's not really worth much if your users are struggling to access it, work with it, and also interpret it. Fortra's SQL BI intelligence solution empowers your business users by making business data accessible in Excel and highly visible via dashboards and other web browser interfaces. And being able to give key stakeholders and business users the information they need when they need it, and also removing the burden off of IT to actually have to deliver this information to them. So during today's presentation, you will learn how to import your existing queries that you may already have created with Query 400 or other programs that you might have. Make changes to views by adding prompts and making them reusable to different users within the organization. So you have to, so the whole process is to manage less queries, but giving that capability to extend the current queries that you have. And also, how users can access data, directly via Excel, or if they're using the web interface, export that information to Excel, and even set up some automation schedules inside of there to deliver reports to them or Excel files to them directly to them at certain intervals of the day, or during the week or the month. And if time permits, I'll also be showing you how to create new queries around different data sets as well inside of the solution. Here's a quick look at the agenda again. Just like I said, we're gonna spend some time on what's some of the limitations of Query 400 and why you need to modernize that process. And then we're also going to be talking about what is SQL BI and how it can help you in your organization, right? And then some of the different functions and features it can give you and your users. And then we'll do that live demonstration and building those queries and importing and stuff like that during that time. And then we'll finish up with some Q&A at the end if time permits. Feel free to enter your questions into the chat window, and I will address them towards the end of the webinar if time allows. Please feel free to, as I'm going through the webinar, to enter those at any time from that standpoint. So if there's any that I can address, or as I'm looking over at them, I will look over and see if I can address them during the conversation as well. I also plan to complete this session in about 30 minutes or less. And remember, today's event is being recorded, and you will receive a link that you can share with anyone in your organization who could not attend today's session, or if you missed anything and you need to rewatch. Again, my name is Greg Schmidt. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Fortra with about 23 years plus of experience. My areas of expertise are SQL Business Intelligence and the document informs automation solutions here at Fortra. I also have over a decade's worth of experience in the IBMI report and data distribution and RPA or robotic process automation technology. Over the years, I've been key in helping companies automate their data and document processes and also streamline their business processes with technology and strategic planning for digital transformation of documents, data, and workflows. One of the things I'm very passionate about is helping guide companies in best practices for implementation and solution expansion within organizations to bring as much efficiencies with the solutions, with the Fortress solutions, as you can with inside your organizations. All right, businesses today need to start using their data better. With how fast-paced the business world is today, companies need to be able to turn on a dime and adjust quickly to changes. And the efforts that companies are putting towards their digital and data transformation efforts, companies need solutions that can help them move their companies forward with taking their data and making insightful, easy to understand data stories. So really taking the data and being able to put those easy to consume data stories around things to make decisions easier and faster. Basically, you can divide organizational needs into sort of four columns. The first one being the power of data, being able to create powerful views and prompts, and conditional logic without having to write programs or make multiple passes over data. Having the flexibility so when the request changes, business users don't have to wait days or weeks. Some of the users need to have their data in Excel. Some of it want to look at in the browser when they need it, and some want both. So being able to give that to them and having that flexibility is key, so they can actually get what they want when they need it. Being able to provide accuracy by providing a central store of definitions that can be used by many and eliminate the chance of human error. Most users are running the same reports, over the same data and tables every day and multiple times a day. So being able to provide them that central repository, and manage that central repository, is a key piece. And finally, security. Even if you rely on the IBM security for security for the setup, SQL BI will honor that. Right, so we can use the IBM security. You can also use one of our own layers of security, all the way down to field and row level security functions in our application. Now, when it comes to SQL, or it comes to query, when it comes to Query 400, for over 30 years now, many IBM shops have defaulted to using Query 400 to access their data, fulfilling the basic needs of generating simple reports from DB2 data. Again, in today's fast-paced world of data transformation, more and more organizations are finding out that Query 400 and custom programs can't keep up with the requirements around the data reporting and analytics needs inside the organization. It's just too fast-paced for them. Because of some of these limitations of the applications or programming that people are using, like interfaces not user-friendly for designing, right? So it's hard to design those different kinds of reports or create those different kinds of reports, green screen kind of a feel. There's some limitations there as well. Incompatibilities with Microsoft Excel. One of the most common interfaces in today's business world is Microsoft Excel. So being able to directly integrate with that is a key feature, and giving that streamlining that user interface. Compound queries are unscalable, and data integrity is potentially at risk. Okay, let me go into just a quick go into each one of these really quickly here, just to sort of go through some of these different reasons why here. So starting with the user interface, the pretty common one here. The user interface is not user friendly at all, right? Let's face it, IBM is a powerful business system, but green screens are not pretty to look at sometimes, and not easy for users or for everyone that might not be familiar with the 5250 interface. There are many reasons why you may need to modernize your process. Another one is, let's face it, the younger generation that is entering the business world today, they're not used to the they're used to more of a GUI interface, not the green screen interfaces. So they're used to more of a visual experience during that process. Younger generation or not, new hires are likely to be younger, and not have had experience with and ever seen green screens in their lives. In order for them to take full advantage and challenge of the challenges within your business and within the organization, they need an easy to use modern interface that will allow them to access the data quickly without the need to know SQL query language or programming. The next thing to look at is how it works, or more importantly, how it doesn't work with Microsoft Excel. Right? Over the years, Microsoft Excel has become one of the most business user applications, to be able to manipulate and work with data, and also to be able to analyze it. And pretty much all business users use Excel at some point in their day, right? That are working with data, so they're comfortable with it. Getting data out of the IBMI and into Excel using query and other methods by no means is impossible, but it does require multiple steps. And sometimes it takes too many steps for people to remember. It's sort of, everybody's sort of just become to, it's the necessary evil kind of a thing, right? And yes, you can use ACS to do this, but it does have its own layers of complexity, and some users will still run into issues trying to do so because of the process and the knowledge that is needed to do so. In reality, the process is inefficient and time-consuming and error-prone for IT and users. And it also can delay business users in getting the timely data they need to make informed and quick business decisions. Some business users will try to take a shortcut, transposing and manually entering data into a spreadsheet themselves. This is not efficient at all. This workaround also introduces the risk of human error and could compromise data integrity. The next limitation is around scalability. Query 400 and compound queries might start to box you into corners and become unscalable. Query 400 can only search a single partition at a time on a local database. That means someone in IT needs to create multiple queries to run them manually and to report and do the data distribution. Not only inefficient, this model just is not scalable in today's business world. With Query 400's limitations and programming limitations of only one query at a time, anytime someone needs a slightly different set of data, you need to modify or run a new query. Using a tool like SQL BI that provides, a more advanced BI function in fewer steps is a huge design time saver for your business. Plus, these tools can shield users from the complexity of the queries and provide faster results to get to their data. That's the benefit of modernizing. You get the data your organization needs in one step without wasting valuable time and your IT staff and business resources. And last of all, your data integrity potentially is at risk. Runtime prompts allow users to input variables that they want to be able to get queries on, like entering in a customer number or a date range or something like that inside of there. There's no runtime prompts in Query 400. So when business users need to change their data sets to analyze different results in queries, a modification to the code of the query they need to be able to modify the query to be able to do so. Let's say accounting needs to search for a certain customer account. Sometimes they do this dozens of times each day, right? With Query 400, IT has to do, there's two options, right? Elevate their security privileges so they can modify the query on their own, or manually go into the query and enter the exact account number and run the query each time to refresh the data. Without runtime prompts, Query 400 ultimately interferes with the organization's ability to get business done efficiently. You either have no secure way to allow users to be self-sufficient. Different users or departments can't run existing views or run unique tailored results without writing a new query themselves or elevating their privileges inside of the security of the system. We all know change can be challenging, right? Switching business intelligence tools shouldn't also mean losing all the work you have put into writing your existing queries over the years. What if there was a way you could take all your current Query 400 queries and SQL statements you created and import them into a modern BI interface and start using them within seconds? Well, there is. SQL BI or SQL Business Intelligence has built-in query import that can give you the capability to access the different queries and import them into the application via the green screen or via our Viewpoint GUI interface, which I'll be showing you today. All right. SQL Business Intelligence now. So we'll move on to sort of the solution here from that standpoint. So SQL Business Intelligence is a complete solution that allows you to do everything from importing of queries, creation of views and dashboards over your data, to the distribution of the information in a wide variety of user deployment methods. Again, you can create views, queries, do drill downs, pivot tables, slice and dice data, build custom reports and dashboards so you can see the data in charts and graphs, and make the data easier to consume for your user groups. You can even use automated scheduling via the application to run scripts or run just different views inside of the application to deliver that information to the different users. Fortra's business intelligence solution's sole purpose is to unlock the value of your data using analytics. Organizations can now start to get more value out of their information by taking the data and getting structured information out of it, to be able to do, to analyze it and to make actionable insights with it. SQL Business Intelligence enables your business in the strategic decision-making process and gives you the tools either for IT or the business users to access the data easily and when you need it. We empower IT and business users by first providing IT the tools to easily translate and deliver lots of data from different data sources into clear, actionable stories with an easy-to-use interface to make users more self-sufficient in accessing their data they need by removing the need to do time-consuming coding and the building of complex data warehouses by IT. And by doing the before mentioned, it will enable your business users to make quick, informed decisions and improve overall performance and the health of your organization by being able to look at the real-time data when they need it and how they need it. All companies today need to be able to use their data better, that they collect on a daily basis, to be more efficient within their organization, and to drive the business forward. So if your data that you're working with lives natively on the IBM platform in a DB2 database, or as many organizations today might have a mixture of business platforms they use to move the business forward, SQL BI can help you with those different options. So we can actually gather that information from those different sources. With Fortra SQL Business Intelligence, we are helping IT and business users in organizations access and deploy easy-to-use data interfaces for their complex data, which will help you in turn your data into actionable insights and drive your business to the next level. Our true goal is to make this as simple as possible for IT and business users in all organizations to access data they need and when they need it. We sort of use this three-step methodology when we're talking about the SQL BI solution here. Collecting and discovering live and historical data from the organization, right? So we look at that, and sort of collect it and say, what are we building our views over in that standpoint? And then we understand and design around that, right? And say, hey, what is the live data? Is it going to be importing queries? Is it going to be pivot tables? Do we need to write scripts? Are we doing dashboards and stuff like that? So we can build those different kinds of interfaces like that. And then the last of all, and sometimes first thought process, is how we're going to share and deploy that to someone. Right? Is that going to be via the web browser interface? Maybe you want the web browser interface to be the main piece because that's zero application footprint, right? There's nothing to install for users to access those queries. Are we deploying via a dashboard, or are they going to directly use Excel to be that key point to be able to connect to? So you have those different methods there. So we sort of take these three steps here, or three thought processes in place here when we're creating those different queries. And again, with SQL, you get more than just importing your queries. You can build new queries over your data in minutes, right? So very quick and very easy to be able to do that. SQL also gives you the flexibility and options, again, of those deployments, right? So being able to use dashboards and reports, use the SQL web interface, use client tables or like a pivot table kind of structure, or the Microsoft Excel functions. So those are some key pieces, and we'll be covering a couple of these here in the demonstration here just in a few seconds here. And remember, before you can give access to your data, you need to be able to create views around it, right? Designing views and dashboards around your data is simplified as well. So you don't have to fear the data anymore. So a lot of people fear their data when they say, oh, you need to access a database and do certain things. There's different levels that people are at, right? From understanding data and stuff like that, and understanding the structures and stuff like that of data. So we can help at different levels, right? So if you're expert level, medium level, beginner level, even if you don't even have SQL knowledge, there's still ways that we can help you inside the application with more of a wizard driven, or what we call templates inside of the application, to be able to help you understand that. So you'll see some of that here later in today's presentation. Now I'm going to cover some of the following, right? So I'm going to cover inside the demonstration, how do you import an existing query, right? So we'll go through how do you import an existing query. And then I'll be covering, how do I deploy that existing query, right? So how quick can I deploy that, right? So you'll be pretty amazed from that standpoint. I can import a query in a few seconds and then have that deployed in a few seconds. So it's pretty quick from that standpoint to deploy, import and deploy. And then we'll also talk about adding prompts to that existing query, right? So how do I modify that query to have those different, maybe have a date prompt or some of those different prompts. And then how do I access that data via Excel? So all those different, different methods that you might want to be able to do there. So the first step here, we're going to open up. I have my viewpoint designer opened up here, and the viewpoint designer is where I'm going to have access to queries, but I can also create queries from here, right? So we have ways to be able to create different objects inside of here. So, and objects to us, as you see from my drop-down list here, are views. So that we'll be talking more about views today, but there's reports, there's client reports, scripts, tables, client tables, applications are like planned drill downs, and then dashboards. So we have all those different methods here from that standpoint. But from a query standpoint, I can import queries, right? So we have inside of here, we have this import option, and we have a query definition option. This is going to allow me to browse out to a library to be able to grab my queries. So if you had one, or if you had hundreds of them out there, you can grab those, and you can import them one by one, or you can import them all inside of here too. So if I said, if I want all these, I can import them all at once, or I can say, hey, I just want the sales one to be able to import, and I'm going to work with that one right now. I can actually import that one into the application here to be able to access that. So you'll see I can actually get to that information there. So now that one's imported. So that one's there and accessible to me. So now if I go over into my application now, and if I go over to my my interface here, and I go to that Greg Temp library here, you'll see that sales one is inside of here. So now I can come into here and I can double click on that from a user standpoint and get access to that via my browser. Now, with a user being able to access this now, they have access to a couple different things. They can print, they can email it, they could save these results down and download them as an Excel file. So they can export that out. They could create subtotals. They could create graphs and charts. So maybe they wanted to create a graph and chart with something. They could create those graphs and charts in here, using those different functions. So they can start to see some of that information here and start to do some comparisons and start some of that visualization process inside of the application. So they can do that here, from the application standpoint. So you can use use that to be able to do that here. Now, the other option you have, so extending the queries, right? I always like to say, hey, how do we extend the query and reuse these queries for other purposes, right? So that query is more of a mass query, right? It gives you all the information back. Now, maybe I want to design around this query and say, hey, I want to add to this query. I have all my sales reps, that I have 100 sales reps that I want to be able to have them enter their own information in, right? And you'll see from our design interface, you can right click on those after you import them and say design, and you have access to the SQL statement itself. You have access to what we call the view builder, which is more of a tabular, sort of a wizard driven kind of interface. And then you have access to what we call files and fields, where most people like to live at from that standpoint, either the SQL tab or the files and fields tab. I know SQL. I don't like to live in the SQL structure. I like to live in more of the visual world. So I like to be able to see some of the information, especially if you don't know all the table structures and stuff like that. This will show you that. If I need to add databases, I can add databases there. And the center section is just information that you have pulled down from the top. So you can take any of these fields and use them as export inside of here. So say that I wanted to take this and modify these and add like alternative names would be to give them field names and stuff like that. But maybe I wanted to take the customer number and use that as a prompt field inside of there, so I can actually add some syntax in there to be able to give me some prompting functions. So I'm going to save that back here. It's going to save it out there for me, and that saved it there. So it's very easy to be able to modify and do that, do that function there. Now that information is available to me. So if I go back out to my web browser, if I double click on that now, it's going to prompt me for information. Now prompts are really cool, right? Because now I can say, hey, give me this information for 100, customer 100, 600. I only want that information. Or it could be off of a sales rep or something like that, right? So you only get that sale or sales region. You might only want a certain region back or something like that, right? Depending on how you want to slice and dice that information. But that's going to give you that capability there to be able to slice and dice and for them to be able to work with it. So very easy to be able to, to be able to work with that information and be able to get to that information and do those modifications. Now, there's some really cool things, inside the application itself, like for different, different kinds of sets of data. You might want a prompt that says, hey, I want to prompt on this information here. I want to get to that info and I want to be able to look at this data. Sometimes data is not nice to look at, right? So being able to create reprompt inside of here, or maybe I want to create subtotals in here, make the data a little bit more presentable to the eyes or to certain users, right? So being able to create subtotals inside of here and be able to, subtotal that information, and then maybe even doing some analytics on the data to say, hey, I want to see the ups and downs of the business, over the months, right, over the different periods. So I can actually say, hey, I want to create a line chart to be able to see some of those ups and downs of that information inside of here. So now you can use the tool to be able, again, to be able to do more visual representation, either do some calculations and stuff inside of here, or more of that visualization via the data standpoint. So you do have some different functions there. And then from an Excel standpoint, again, you can use the browser to export to Excel. You can use different functions inside of there. You could also use the viewpoint plugin inside of Excel. So I could say, hey, I want to be able to access Excel data inside of here, and I want to be able to access maybe certain maybe that sales report that I had out there, right? I want to access that sales report and get information back for me. So I can actually go in there and say, hey, I'm going to go out to Greg Temp. I'm going to go out to the, oh, I spelled that wrong, Greg Temp, and then browse that and then grab that information and then bring that back to me inside of here. Now this function is really cool because it's going to have a prompt option if you have a prompt built into it. So if I'm going to put something different in there, I'll grab that back, and it fills that information in. Now this information can be saved, right, or reprompted or refreshed. So say I go to lunch and I want to come back and refresh that to get the live data, I can come back and refresh it and get live information. Now we can also have different you save these down to to your desktop or to a network folder too, so you can reopen those, and then those queries will be saved in here, so you can open them up at any given time too. So a lot of times the sales departments like to be able to run their own stuff and have that, because they do that same thing every single day. So instead of downloading the query every single time, they might just say, hey, I want to create a spreadsheet with the different tabs or different sheets on there to be able to access. So you can do different things like that inside of here. So there's many different ways to be able to access and get to that data. Now, from a time standpoint today, there was a few questions inside of there. I think I answered most of the questions as I was going through the presentation to here today. But if there was any that I did miss, we will get back to you from that standpoint. I want to stick to my 30 minutes as much as possible here today and get you guys back on track for today. So if there's any questions, like I said, that I did not get to, I will get back to you as well. I just want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. I hope you learned some helpful information about ways to modernize your business intelligence in 2023 and also in 2024 inside your organization. Start the process of removing some of the older technologies and programming methods that you might be using in Query 400 and building those centralized repositories that are easier to maintain. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to our sales team or to myself, and we'll be happy to schedule a free consultation, a live one-on-one demonstration to address any of those questions that you might have. Again, you also will receive an email with the recording and a link to that recording to the webinar, and you can share with anyone in your company that could not attend today's session, or again, if you would like to rewatch anything that you might have missed. Again, thanks for attending today's webinar. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.